Hello again. Many normal people are utterly baffled by the ever-increasing determination to blur and ultimately obliterate wholly the distinction between men and women. The constant talk of trans identity, transphobia, chosen pronouns and all the rest of it sounds to many of us like raving lunacy and an obsession with what is at best a minority interest affecting less than 1% of the population. Why should the other 99% of us be dragged into the business? The answer is simple. This is the endgame in a slow process which began back in the 1960s and has led both in Britain and America to the virtual destruction of a way of life which served us well for centuries and culminated in the intellectual, cultural and technological triumphs of Western civilization. In the 1960s, the slow process began of normalising things such as homosexuality and abortion, and also making divorce easier. It was also at this time that the idea began to be propagated that the traditional family was a dysfunctional structure, one which created mental illness and caused children to grow up unhappy and to be indoctrinated into preordained sex roles which differed greatly from males and females. A good deal of what we now see is a direct result of such ideas, and the children now being raised are taking it for granted that the state should care for them and provide them with their ethical values rather than their own mothers. 60 years ago, mothers were the primary carers for their children until the age of 5 or 6. Now they're rushed off to nurseries before they even have time to learn to speak or walk. This means that state-approved workers tend to them and mould their development rather than their own parents. Mothers have been taught that motherhood, staying at home to look after their children and their house, is somehow a failure, and that all women should really aspire to be firefighters or police officers, say, instead of parents. The economy has been subtly adjusted so that it is hardly possible anymore for a husband to go out to work and support his wife and children. It is actually necessary in all but the wealthiest families for both parents to work. This means their children spend most of their time at nurseries or schools. Since nurseries and schools are regularly inspected by the state to ensure they are teaching the approved line on things such as race and gender, these children learn the values of the state rather than those of their own mothers. Of course, all this would be fine if it really had improved society and made people happier and less prone to being miserable or violent. It would be worth it if children without fathers in their family really were as stable and well balanced as those who grow up with both parents. What do viewers think? Is this really the case? What about those organisations where women have been told that motherhood is not as valuable as having a career and, let's say, going to work? Has all this been a success story? Are the police, army and government improved by this practice? In other words, who has actually benefited from it all? Are children happier than they were 60 years ago? Are women happier? Men? Is the government better than it used to be? Parliament? The army? The police? Somewhere along the line, Western society took a wrong turn, and it began with the idea that traditional family life was a bad thing which needed to be abolished.